Good morning, children. We were discussing about post-fertilization events in last class, and we already completed embryo and endosperm development and also the formation of seeds from ovule. And we learned about two types of seeds, albuminous and non-albuminous seeds. One of you tell me the difference between albuminous and non-albuminous seeds. Nia?
Non-albuminous seeds have no residual endosperm.
Whereas albuminous seeds
Retain a part of endosperm as it is not completely used up during embryo development.
Without referring, you say now. Without referring anywhere, just say what you have understood. It's not very difficult.
It retain a part of endosperm.
Which one?
Non-albuminous.
They will not or they will?
They will albuminous they will retain a part of endosperm.
Non-albuminous?
They will not.
See, Nia, understand the meaning and learn. Okay. Albuminous means they will retain some amount of endosperm even after embryo development. You know that endosperm is being used for, it nourishes the growing embryo. In spite of being used up for the development of embryo, some amount when it is left behind, that is in albuminous seeds. And when nothing is left behind, endosperm, if it is not left behind or no residual endosperm is there, then it is non-albuminous. Okay. And then we learned about the viability period of seeds. And two examples also we listed out to prove that the viability can vary from plant to plant. And two examples where the viability period, one was 2000 years and the other one was 10,000 years. So give me those examples. Gayatri, which seed was estimated to have more than 10,000 years of viability? Details?
It was excavated out from the Arctic tundra, and its viability is about 10,000 years.
Okay. Punya, the other example?
Date palm or Finis dactyliferus was found during the excavation of King Harold's palace near the Dead Sea.
We already learned the viability. So that was about viability period. Viability period of seeds vary from a few months to more than 10,000 years. So that depends on the seed. For some, it can be for a few months, whereas certain other seeds, their viability period will be for hundreds of years. And today what we are going to learn is about the formation of fruits from ovary. You know that once fertilization is completed, ovary will change into fruit and ovule will become seed. So we have completed the first three post-fertilization events. The different post-fertilization events are embryo development, endosperm development, and then development of seed from ovule and development of fruit from ovary. So first three we have completed. Now we are going to learn about formation of fruit. The ovary develops into a fruit. Once fertilization is completed, the ovary will change into fruit. Transformation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruit proceeds simultaneously. So both these steps are taking place at the same time. So when the ovary is changing, transforming into fruit, the ovules at the same time, they'll be getting transformed into seeds. So these two processes, formation of seeds from ovule and fruits from ovary, are taking place simultaneously. The wall of the ovary develops into pericarp. So the outer wall, not only the outer wall, the entire wall of the fruit you call as pericarp. The different layers you don't have to learn. I think last year you have learned the different layers of fruit wall? No. Okay. So the wall of the ovary develops into pericarp. The fruits, there are different types of fruits. Some fruits can be fleshy, some can be dry. So fleshy means, you know the difference. So their fruit walls will be very fleshy, like guava, orange, mango. All these are fleshy fruits. At the same time, mustard, groundnut, all these are dry fruits. So once again, the ovary, once fertilization is completed, will transform into fruit, and the formation of seeds and seeds from ovule and fruits from ovary will take place simultaneously, and the wall of the fruit, it will get transformed into the wall of the ovary. Sorry, the wall of the ovary will transform into the wall of the fruit, which you call as pericarp.
Ma'am, you are not audible. Just now again.
So we were discussing about the formation of fruit from ovary. So we'll continue with that. I'm repeating the points again since there was a break in between. The ovary, once fertilization is completed, it will develop into fruit. And as I already told, the formation, transformation of ovule into seeds and ovary into fruit take place simultaneously. Both these events are taking place together. And another change that is taking place is the wall of the ovary will transform into the wall of the fruit. And you call the wall of the fruit as pericarp. Pericarp has got different layers. So depending upon the nature of pericarp, you classify fruits into fleshy or dry fruits. The pericarp, the fruit wall is fleshy, then you call that fruit as fleshy fruit. And if it is dry, you call it as dry fruit. And for pericarp, it's not given in your textbook. The different layers of pericarp include epicarp or exocarp. That is the outermost layer of the fruit. See here in the figure also you can see exocarp and epicarp both are same. Exocarp, then the middle layer mesocarp, innermost layer endocarp. So together we call it as pericarp. Once again I will repeat, the wall of the ovary, as it is getting transformed, as the ovary is getting transformed into fruit, the wall of the ovary will transform or will change into pericarp. Pericarp is the wall of the fruit, and pericarp has got different layers. Outermost layer you call it as exocarp. We even call it as epicarp, then mesocarp, and the innermost layer is endocarp. And depending upon the nature of this pericarp, you classify fruits into fleshy and dry. If the pericarp is fleshy, you call those fruits as fleshy fruits. Example, guava, orange, mango, etc. And when it is dry, you call it as dry fruits. Groundnut, mustard, etc. Examples. Now moving on to the next slide. Fruits are of two types. So we can class Okay, we were discussing about the types of fruits. I told you there are different classifications, but this is based on its origin. So fruits based on from where they are formed, you can categorize them into two types, true fruits and false fruits. So let's start with the first one, true fruits. And in true fruits, as it happens in majority of the plants, fruit is formed from the ovary. All the other parts will degenerate and fall off. They don't contribute in the to the formation of fruit. Such fruits are known as true fruits. I'll repeat once again. In majority of the plants, once fertilization is completed, it's the ovary that changes into fruit with ovule changing into seeds inside. But there are certain other plants where some other parts of the flower also are also contributing to the formation of fruit. So there we call it as false fruits. But in true fruits, it is the ovary that is getting transformed into fruit. All the other parts will degenerate and fall off. Whereas in false fruits, fruits are formed from the ripened ovary. Not only from the ripened ovary, along with the ovary, other parts also can contribute to the formation of fruit. For example, thalamus or receptacle. So that part also is contributing to the formation of fruit along with the ovary. Examples, apple, strawberry, cashew apple. So all these are examples where parts of the flower other than the ovary. So in these cases, it's the thalamus that is contributing to the formation of the fruit. So such fruits you call as false fruits. So once again, I'll explain. Fruits can be classified into true and false the depending upon its origin, from where they are formed. So depending on that, you categorize it into two types, true and false fruits. In case of true fruits, from where are they formed? Gayatri, in true fruits, from where do they form?
From the ovaries.
They are formed from the ovary, and all the other parts will degenerate and they will fall off. Mango, then grapes. So all those are examples for true fruits. Whereas there are certain other plants where along with the ovary, other parts of the flower also contribute to the formation of fruit. So such fruits are known as false fruits. One example for such a part which will associate with the ovary for the formation of fruit are uh, such a part is thalamus or receptacle. So many other parts also can, even pedicel. So there are different parts which can contribute to the formation of fruit along with the ovary. So if some other part is also joining along with the ovary to form fruit, then you call it as false fruits. Example, apple, strawberry, cashew, etc. Okay. Any doubt? So we learned that in generally fruit is formed from ovary and seeds are formed from ovules. But there are certain plants where along with the ripened ovary, some other parts like thalamus can also contribute to the formation of fruit. In such case, you call it as a false fruit. You call a fruit as true fruit only if it is formed from ovary. If some other parts are also joining along with the ovary in forming fruit, then you call it as false fruit. Okay. Now moving on to the next one. Parthenocarpic fruits. Have you heard about parthenocarpic fruits, children? Parthenogenesis? No. Parthenocarpic fruits are those fruits which are formed without fertilization. So you have learned that once fertilization is completed, then the ovary of the flower will change into fruit, ovule into seed. But there are certain plants where fertilization doesn't take place. Without fertilization, the fruits are being formed. Such fruits are known as parthenocarpic fruits. When organisms are formed without fertilization, then you call it as parthenogenesis, about which we will learn later. So what is parthenocarpy? Formation of fruits without fertilization. Normal cases, fertilization has to take place if fruits have to be formed. But there are certain cases where no fertilization is involved. So if fruits are formed without fertilization, you call it as parthenocarpic fruits. One example is banana, pineapple. So naturally also this take place, and artificially by inducing or introducing some hormones, we can make parthenocarpic fruits. Parthenocarpic fruits are seedless fruits. So naturally they are occurring, and artificially by injecting hormones also we can make such seedless fruits. So here in the picture you can see watermelon without any seeds. So artificially, naturally also in some of the plants it is happening, and at the same time for commercial purpose we can make them seedless with the introduction or by injecting or by using some hormones also we can make the plants carry out parthenocarpy. Is it clear? So what is meant by parthenocarpic fruits? The fruits which are formed without fertilization are known as parthenocarpic fruits, and you call the phenomenon as parthenocarpy. These are seedless because no fertilization is taking place. And then artificially, so if you want to produce on a commercial, for a commercial purpose, if you want to produce some seedless fruits, you can induce, you can make the plants carry out this parthenocarpy by injecting some hormones. Okay. So before I proceed to apomixis and polyembryony, let us quickly summarize what we have completed. Meenakshi, just summarize what all points we discussed. We started with the formation of fruit from ovary. Where are you, Meenakshi? Yes, start.
Developed from the ovary.
Huh.
The formation of fruits from the ovary and seeds from the ovules happen simultaneously.
Okay, enough. Donna, continue.
The wall of the ovary develops into a pericarp,
Hmm.
which is the wall of fruits.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
it could be
Anna,
fleshy.
continue. Anna. Anna's video is stuck. Steffi.
The fruits may, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Anna is Steffi. Welcome back. Anna, continue.
The wall of the fruit.
The wall of the fruit is known as pericarp. Now, based on the wall of the
Fruit
fruit,
may be
how can you
fleshy or-
classify? Yes. Okay, I'll come back to you later, Anna. Steffi.
Will be dry.
Anna, I'm hearing only a few words. In between, it is getting broken. No
True
problem.
fruits.
I'll come to you later. Yes, Steffi?
Ma'am, the last
Steffi,
point.
you can say now.
Ma'am, the last point.
No, both type. Depending upon the pericarp, how can you classify the fruits?
True fruits and false fruits. Yeah,
Depending upon the nature of pericarp.
Okay. Fleshy fruits and dry fruits.
What are fleshy fruits?
They have a pericarp, which
They
is
have pericarp or they have a particular type of pericarp.
fleshy pericarp.
Yes.
Example,
Then-
mango, guava.
Okay. And next one?
Dry fruits. They have the example, groundnut, mustard.
They have, you didn't complete the sentence.
Dry
They have
pericarp.
okay, they have dry pericarp. Example?
Groundnut, mustard.
Okay. Evelyn, then after that, what else we discussed?
True fruit and false fruit.
Types of yet another classification of fruits. What are true fruits? Evelyn?
Fruits are directly developed from the ovary, and other parts will be regenerating and fall off.
Can you give an example?
Grape.
Then Sania, what are false fruits?
In which fruits grow from ripened ovary along with some parts of flower like bananas.
Examples?
Apple, strawberry, cashew.
Apple, strawberry, cashew apple, etc. Okay. Then with that we completed, no? So let us continue. We are going to learn about another important phenomenon, apomixis and polyembryony. Both terms are very important. You can expect questions from this part. Even though it is the concluding part of the lesson, you can expect questions from there. Apomixis and polyembryony. So let us learn what is meant by apomixis. Apomixis, it's a formation of seeds without fertilization. Parthenocarpy means, what is the difference between parthenocarpy and apomixis? In parthenocarpy, I told, without fertilization, fruits are being formed. But in apomixis, it's a formation of seeds without fertilization. Okay, don't confuse between both. In parthenocarpy, fruits are formed without fertilization. Here in apomixis, seeds are formed without fertilization. It's a formation of, apo means away, and mixes, apomixis, mingling, fusion. So away from fusion, no fertilization is happening and seeds are being formed. It's the production of seeds without fertilization. Example, certain grasses, it can, or these phenomenon, or this particular phenomenon, it is occurring naturally in the environment. In some plants, it's happening, it's occurring naturally. Some species of Asteraceae and grasses, they exhibit apomixis. It's a form of asexual reproduction. Actually, it is asexual reproduction because no fertilization, only fertilization, only if the fusion of gametes takes place, you can call it as sexual reproduction. So it is asexual reproduction, no fertilization is happening, but it will mimic sexual reproduction. I'll repeat once again. Apomixis means formation of seeds without fertilization. And here, no fusion of gametes is taking place. So it's a method of asexual reproduction, but it will mimic sexual reproduction. It will imitate. So we feel it is, or we think, or we have a feeling that this is sexual reproduction, but actually asexual reproduction is taking place and resulting in the formation of seeds. So far what we have learned is fusion of gametes take place, or fertilization happens, and as a result of fertilization, zygote will be formed, and once fertilization is completed, the ovary of the flower will change into fruit and ovule will form seed. That is what we have learned. But in this phenomenon, seeds are formed without fertilization, and this takes place naturally, or this phenomenon takes place naturally in certain grasses and the family Asteraceae, a flowering plant. You can see the picture of both. And it's a form of asexual reproduction which will mimic, which will imitate sexual reproduction. In certain species, the diploid egg cell is formed without reduction division and develops into embryo without fertilization. Am I audible? Am I audible? Yes. Children, here we need to recollect or recap some of the points we have already learned. I'll read the sentence once again and you can expect some questions. I hope, as I had told, you will be having a class test this week. You might have revised all the previous topics. Yes? Yes or no? Huh? Somebody respond. Have you revised? Evelyn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in certain species, the diploid egg cell, actually egg cell is diploid or haploid, children? Egg cell is female gamete. Is it diploid or haploid normally?
Haploid.
Haploid. It's a gamete. Gametes will be haploid. So you might be remembering what we learned in the beginning. That is one of the cells present in the nucellus, it will transform into megaspore mother cell. And what happens to this megaspore mother cell? It will undergo which division?
Meiotic.
Meiotic division, and it will form four I should call out the name.
Megaspores.
4 megaspores. And what will happen to these 4 megaspores?
One will
All the
form
4
the
will become
female,
functional.
only one.
3 will degenerate and only 1 will remain functional. And what will happen to that one functional megaspore? I need
Developing
your
the
answer.
female gametophyte.
It will
Developing
become
female-
female gametophyte. What is the other name for female gametophyte? Which structure is known as a female gametophyte?
Embryo sac.
Yes, Nandana?
Embryo sac.
Embryo sac. Okay. And inside the embryo sac, repeated nuclear divisions takes place. Repeated nuclear divisions will take place, and then the different nuclei or different cells like gamete, antipodal, synergids, all these are formed, all of which are haploid. Individually, if you take, each cell will be haploid. Okay, and this haploid female gamete will fuse with the male gamete, and then only zygote will be formed, and zygote develops into embryo. But here what happens is the diploid egg cell is formed. The diploid egg cell. So egg cell as such becomes diploid. The ploidy of the egg cell will be diploid. So when that is diploid, actually only after fertilization it becomes diploid. Okay, but here the egg cell, the female gamete as such is diploid, and it will not undergo any reduction, or without any meiotic division, without any reduction division, the diploid egg cell is being formed, and it will not get involved in any fusion. It is not joining with any male gamete. The diploid egg cell is, once it is formed, it will develop. It undergoes development and change into embryo. Here, no fertilization is involved. So, under normal conditions, you know that a megaspore mother cell will be differentiated from the nucella cells, and that will undergo meiotic division. So, when meiosis takes place, you know that the cells formed will be haploid, and different cells are formed, out of which one is our female gamete, and this female gamete is haploid. The haploid female gamete combines with haploid male gamete and forms diploid zygote. But here in apomixis, what is happening? Egg cell as such is diploid. The egg cell formed is diploid. So it will not undergo any fusion with the male gamete. Directly it develops into embryo. Clear? And develops into, once this embryo is formed, gradually it will develop into seed. And this phenomenon, or this process is known as apomixis. So once again, I will repeat, apomixis is the formation of seeds without fertilization. Fertilization is not taking place here. Directly, the production of seeds without fertilization, seeds are being formed. Even though seeds are being formed, it is not a method of sexual, or it is not, these seeds are not formed by sexual reproduction. It's an asexual method of reproduction which will mimic, which imitates sexual reproduction. And here a diploid egg cell is formed without reduction division. Actually, we have learned that it is by means of reduction division of megaspore mother cell. For megaspores will be formed, 3 are degenerating, 1 is being formed. Then the cells undergo, embryo sac is haploid, and they will undergo the division of their nuclei and form 8 nuclei, and each one will be having haploid number of chromosomes. Embryo sac as well as the gamete. The female gamete are also haploid. But here in apomixis, the egg cell formed will be diploid, and they directly form embryo without getting involved in fertilization. Okay, so it's a method of asexual reproduction. So what is the advantage of apomixis? Who can tell me the advantage and disadvantage of apomixis? Anybody? Tell me the advantage and disadvantage. I told you it's a method of asexual reproduction. So what is its advantage? Whenever asexual reproduction takes place, what are the advantages? Major advantage.
Seeds assured,
Louder.
assured seeds.
Tanya, it was not clear.
If it is sexual reproduction, assured seeds.
Not able to follow what you're saying. Can you message me? The term it is not clear. Can anybody tell me? Anyone else? Asexual reproduction. What is its advantage? Forget about apomixis. What is the advantage and disadvantage of asexual reproduction? You have learned, you know it. Anybody? Michael, what is the advantage of asexual reproduction? What is the advantage? You have been learning about asexual reproduction from class 7. You don't know the advantage and disadvantage. What type of offsprings are produced when
Completely
asexual?
identical.
Yes, they will be completely identical to the parent plant. If you want a rose plant exactly like the one which you are having, what will you do? You will take a stem cutting and you plant it again. Is that sexual or asexual reproduction? Stem cutting. Raising a new plant from stem cutting is asexual method. You get a similar plant, just like that of the plant from where you took the cutting. So asexual reproduction helps in producing organisms or new individuals which are exactly similar to the parent. But what is its disadvantage? Any
Genetic
disadvantage? Yes?
Genetic variations will be there.
Yes, genetic variations won't be there because the same parent, single parent is involved. So variations won't be there. Genetic variations are very, very important. You have learned it's necessary for the formation. It is necessary for the formation of new species. It has got an important role in evolution, necessary for the survival of the species. All these points you had learned in class 10 also. So asexual reproduction, the advantage is that they will produce individuals similar to the parents. Whereas the disadvantage is that there won't be any genetic variations. Variations will be limited. So that may not be advantages in the long run because it will not lead to evolution or origin of new species. So we'll continue apomixis and polyembryony in the next class. So what is apomixis? Naureen, what did we learn?
It is the production of seeds without fertilization.
Without fertilization. And more about apomixis. Anna, now your connectivity is better, no? Fan is working smoothly. Okay, tell me the second point.
It is a form of asexual reproduction.
Don't
which
read, Anna.
mimics,
Don't read.
Sexual.
Say.
It is a form of asexual reproduction that mimics sexual
reproduction. It is asexual reproduction, but resembles sexual reproduction. Then last point, Rijas.
The dipole XL is formed and
diploid XL.
Diploid XL is formed without reduction division and forms into embryo without fertilization.
Okay. And this process is known as
apomixis.
Apomixis. Okay, we'll continue apomixis in the next class. So thank you, children. See you next class.